The wind cut across the Nevada desert like a blade. Captain Kyra Brennan lay flat against scorched earth, her body molded to the contours of the firing line. The sun hammered down at 104 degrees, but she didn't flinch, didn't blink. Her right eye pressed against the scope of her .338 Lapua Magnum, a custom-built rifle that had become an extension of her will. 3,240 meters downrange, a steel target no bigger than a dinner plate shimmered in the heat haze. The wind gusted at 32 knots, shifting direction every 4 seconds. Impossible conditions for most shooters. For Kyra, it was Tuesday. She exhaled slowly. The world narrowed to the reticle, the target, the space between heartbeats. Her finger brushed the trigger with the gentleness of a prayer. The rifle bucked. The report echoed across the empty range like thunder rolling through canyon walls. Downrange, the steel plate rang. Direct hit, center mass. Behind her, Master Sergeant Franklin Maddox lowered his binoculars. His weathered face showed no expression, but his jaw tightened. 65 years old, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that had held rifles since before Kyra was born. Desert Storm veteran. Honduras before that. A man who'd seen the worst humanity could offer and kept walking forward anyway. He didn't say anything. He never did when Kyra was shooting. But she felt his presence like a weight on her shoulders. Judgment wrapped in silence. Kyra cycled the bolt. The spent casing tumbled through dry air, clinking against rock. She loaded another round, settled back into position. Fired again. Another hit. Then another. 5 shots, 5 hits at a distance most snipers wouldn't attempt in perfect conditions. Maddox finally spoke. His voice carried the gravel of 1,000 cigarettes smoked in 1,000 foxholes. Your father could shoot, but he never pushed this far. Why do you... Kyra didn't lift her head from the scope. Because far isn't far enough, Master Sergeant. She fired again. The steel sang. Maddox turned away, boots crunching on caliche. Briefing's in 2 hours. Don't be late, Captain. Kyra watched him walk toward the distant buildings, his gait steady despite the limp he'd carried since Fallujah. She knew what he thought, what he'd always thought. Women don't belong in sniper hides. Too emotional, too weak, not built for the patient brutality that long-range shooting demanded. Let him think it. She'd proven herself 100 times. She'd prove it 100 more if that's what it took. But proving herself wasn't why she was here. Proving herself wasn't why she pushed every shot to the edge of impossible. She was here because 6 years ago her brother had died waiting for backup that arrived 10 minutes too late. She was here because she'd been the backup, and she'd never forgive herself. The memory came uninvited the way it always did, sharp and vivid like a knife that never dulled. Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 6 years ago. August heat that could kill a man just for standing in it. Kyra had been 22, fresh out of sniper school, assigned to Overwatch for her brother's patrol. Ethan was 19, too young, too trusting, too eager to prove himself worthy of the Brennan name. Their father, Master Sergeant Patrick Brennan, had been a legend. Desert Storm, 3 tours in Iraq, a sniper who could thread a needle at 1,000 meters. He died in 2003, officially listed as combat casualty. Roadside bomb, wrong place, wrong time. The Army had given them a flag and a medal and a story that never quite added up. Ethan had enlisted at 18, determined to honor their father's memory. Kyra had followed a year later, driven by something she couldn't name. Love. Duty. The desperate need to protect the only family she had left. That day, in Helmand, Ethan's squad had been tasked with clearing a compound 2 clicks from base. Standard patrol. Low threat assessment. Kyra had taken Overwatch position on a ridge 2,000 meters out, far enough to cover the entire operational area, far enough to be safe, far enough to be useless when it mattered. The ambush had come from nowhere. 50 hostiles, coordinated fire RPGs slamming into the compound walls. Ethan's squad had been pinned immediately. Kyra had heard his voice over the radio, calm at first, then urgent, then desperate. Alpha 6 taking heavy fire. Need QRF now. Kyra, they are flanking. We can't hold. Kyra, where are you? We need you. She'd run. Abandoned her position, grabbed her rifle, sprinted down the ridge. 2,000 meters of broken ground, her lungs burning, her heart slamming against her ribs. She'd covered it in 9 minutes, Olympic time, superhuman time. 10 minutes too late. She'd found Ethan behind a shattered wall, clutching his side. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and thick. His vest had taken 3 rounds. One had found the gap under his arm. He'd looked up at her with eyes that already seemed far away. Kira. His voice had been a whisper. It's happening. Like the old protocol. Dad was right. Stay with me. She'd pressed her hands against the wound, but the blood kept coming. Medevac's inbound. Stay with me, Ethan. Tell them it's not random. Dad knew. His hand had gripped her wrist, slippery with blood. Trust no one. Above Colonel. Then his grip had loosened. His eyes had stopped focusing. And Kira had been alone with the weight of her failure. The medevac had arrived 8 minutes later. 8 minutes that meant nothing to a dead man. At the memorial service, Maddox had found her standing apart from the others. He'd served with their father in Desert Storm. Had watched Patrick Brennan grow from a green private into one of the best snipers the Army had ever produced. He'd placed a hand on Kira's shoulder, heavy and awkward. Your daddy was my best friend. Ethan was a good kid. I'm sorry. Kira had stared at the folded flag in her lap. I was too far away. I chose the safe position. You followed orders. Ethan's dead because I followed orders. Maddox had been quiet for a long moment. Then he'd squeezed her shoulder once and walked away. They'd never spoken about it again. But Kira had made a promise that day. Standing over Ethan's grave, watching them lower his casket into the ground, she'd sworn she would never be too far away again. Never be too late. Never choose the safe position when her brothers needed her. She'd become the best. Not good, not great, the best. Because anything less meant more brothers died waiting for backup that never came. The briefing room smelled like bad coffee and old sweat. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in harsh white. A dozen operators filled the space, most of them seasoned veterans with the kind of scars that never fully healed. Kira slid into a seat near the back. Lieutenant Cole Harmon caught her eye and nodded. 34, lean and hard, with eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. He'd been Ethan's best friend, his team leader, the man who'd tried to save him when the ambush hit. Cole carried that guilt the way Kira did, quietly, constantly, like a stone in his gut that never dissolved. At the front of the room, Colonel Raymond Whitlock stood beside a projected map of Afghanistan. 62 years old, silver-haired, with the kind of confidence that came from 30 years of giving orders and having them followed. He'd been a rising star in the 90s, lieutenant colonel during Desert Storm, full colonel by 2003. Now he commanded the base overseeing operations that spanned 3 provinces. Whitlock's voice was smooth, practiced. Gentlemen and Captain Brennan, your mission is straightforward. Diplomatic convoy moving through the Khyber corridor. You'll provide security escort from Bagram to the forward operating base at Gardez. Minimal threat assessment. Standard protocols. Kira studied the map. The route cut through a valley she recognized. The same terrain features, the same choke points, the same elevation changes. Her pulse quickened. Whitlock continued. Intel suggests local Taliban cells are focused elsewhere. You should have a clean run, but we're not taking chances. Task Unit Orion will provide overwatch, air support on standby if needed. Maddox spoke from the side of the room, arms crossed. Who's providing tactical advice on this one, Colonel? You are Master Sergeant. Consider it a farewell tour. Maddox's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. Everyone knew what that meant. Maddox was retiring in 6 weeks. 42 years of service. Desert Storm. Somalia. Afghanistan. Iraq. He'd seen every war America fought since 1983, and he'd come home from all of them. This was his last mission. Whitlock smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. Any questions? Kira raised her hand. Sir, this route, it's similar to Omega-7 from 2019. The room went quiet. Omega-7 was the operation where Ethan died. Whitlock's smile thinned. Noted, Captain, but terrain similarities don't indicate threat. We've used this corridor successfully multiple times since then. With respect, sir, the tactical parameters are almost identical. Same time of day, same weather window, same... Captain Brennan, Whitlock's voice sharpened. I understand you have personal history with this area, but we plan operations based on current intelligence, not past trauma. If you're not comfortable with this mission, I can assign someone else to overwatch. Kira felt every eye in the room on her. She met Whitlock's gaze and held it. I'm comfortable, sir. Just wanted to note the similarity for the record. Noted. Dismissed. The operators filed out. Kira lingered, studying the map. Cole appeared beside him. You see it too, he said quietly. It's the same route, exactly the same. Could be coincidence. Ethan didn't believe in coincidences. Kira traced the route with her finger. His last words. He said it was happening like the old protocol, like Dad was right about something. Cole glanced toward the door, making sure they were alone. I've been digging, quietly. There are patterns, ambushes that shouldn't have happened, intel leaks that were never explained. Your dad was investigating something before he died. Ethan found the same thread. And now we're walking the same route. Yeah. Kira pulled out her phone, opened the tactical mapping app. She overlaid Ethan's route from 2019 with tomorrow's planned convoy path. The lines matched almost perfectly. Then she pulled up older data, her father's final mission in 2003, another match. Someone's using an old playbook, Cole said, or someone's creating patterns deliberately. Kira's mind raced. If you wanted to set up an ambush, you'd choose terrain that worked before, proven kill zones. But why repeat it across 20 years? Maybe it's not about the terrain. Maybe it's about something else. Before Kira could respond, Maddox appeared in the doorway. His expression was unreadable. Captain, Lieutenant, mission prep in 30. I suggest you spend that time checking equipment, not conspiracy theories. Cole straightened. Master Sergeant. Maddox's gaze settled on Kira. Your father trusted his gut. Got him killed. Ethan trusted his gut. Same result. I'm hoping you're smarter than both of them. He left without waiting for a response. Kira stared at the map. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Something he'd told her when she was 12, standing on a range much like the one she'd shot on this morning. Distance is safety, but safety is also cowardice. You'll spend your whole life figuring out which one matters more. That night, Kira sat in her quarters with her laptop, diving into classified archives. She'd learned to navigate the military's digital labyrinth over the past 6 years, learned which passwords were weak, which firewalls had holes, which files were marked classified but poorly secured. She found Ethan's after-action report, read through the sanitized version of his death, killed in action, enemy contact, heroic sacrifice, the usual words that turn tragedy into bureaucratic prose. But there was something else. A note in the file added 3 days after his death. Audio log corrupted, 14 minutes unrecoverable. 14 minutes. The exact window when Ethan had radioed about the ambush, when he'd mentioned the protocol, when he'd said things that someone didn't want recorded. Kira dug deeper, found her father's file from 2003. Same notation. Communications records incomplete, data loss attributed to equipment failure. Equipment didn't fail that consistently. She searched for Operation Tempest, the phrase Ethan had mentioned. The system returned nothing, classified above her clearance level, but she found references in older files documents from the 1980s that hadn't been properly redacted. Operation Tempest, a Cold War protocol, something about Honduras. 1987, a joint operation between Army intelligence and the file cut off, redacted, buried. But one name appeared in the margin notes. Master Sergeant Isaiah Cross, and next to his name, a junior NCO's name as witness, Frank Maddox. Kira leaned back. Her mind connected dots that shouldn't connect. 1987 Honduras, 2003 Iraq, 2019 Afghanistan, 2025 tomorrow's mission. 4 operations spanning 38 years, 4 ambushes using similar terrain, 4 instances of missing communication logs, and Maddox had been present at the beginning. A knock on her door made her close the laptop. She opened it to find Cole standing in the hallway. Can't sleep either, he asked. Sleep's overrated. He stepped inside, closed the door. I found something, had a buddy at JSOC run deep archive search. Operation Tempest was real, 1987. Honduras. We were running covert ops against Sandinista movements. Small unit actions, deniable operations. And someone leaked the operational details to the enemy. American tactics, communication codes, supply routes. A whole unit got ambushed. 12 dead. Master Sergeant Isaiah Cross was investigating the leak when he died. Officially killed by enemy fire. Unofficially, no one knows. Kira felt cold. Maddox served under Cross. Yeah, and your dad served under Maddox in Desert Storm. Ethan served under me. We're all connected. By what? A conspiracy that spans 40 years. Or by someone who's been covering their tracks for 40 years. They sat in silence. The weight of implication hung heavy. Finally, Kira spoke. Tomorrow's mission. If this is what we think it is, then someone's expecting us to walk into another ambush. And we're going anyway. Cole nodded, because if we don't, we'll never prove it. Never stop it from happening again. Ethan would do the same thing. Ethan's dead. So was Dad. So was Sergeant Major Cross. How many more before someone stops it? Cole stood. Get some rest, Kira. Tomorrow's going to be hell either way. After he left, Kira sat with her rifle across her lap. She field stripped it, cleaned each part with the methodical care her father had taught her. The ritual was meditative, calming, a reminder that some things were within her control. She thought about Maddox, the way he'd looked at her on the range, the weight of 40 years in his eyes. He'd lost his mentor in Honduras, lost his best friend in Iraq, watched Ethan die in Afghanistan. Did he know? Was he complicit? Or was he another victim caught in a web he didn't understand? Tomorrow she'd find out. She reassembled the rifle, loaded a fresh magazine, pressed her cheek against the stock, sighting through the scope at nothing, just feeling the familiar weight, the perfect balance. Her father's voice again. A rifle is just metal and wood. It's the person behind it that matters. Their will, their purpose. You point a rifle at something, you better know why. Kira knew why. She'd known for 6 years. She was done being too late. The convoy rolled out at 0600 hours. 6 vehicles, 2 up-armored Humvees, 3 transport trucks, 1 MRAP bringing up the rear. Task Unit Orion rode in the lead vehicles. Maddox sat in the second Humvee, scanning the terrain with the patience of a man who'd learned to read landscapes like books. Kira wasn't with them. She'd left 2 hours earlier, moving through darkness to claim her overwatch position. The ridge she'd chosen was 240 meters from the convoy's planned route, far enough to be safe, close enough to matter. The contradiction haunted her. She climbed the ridge as dawn broke, painting the mountains in shades of copper and gold. The rock was unstable, fractured by decades of weather and warfare. She found a position near the peak, a flat shelf barely wide enough for her body. Below, the valley stretched out like a map made real. She set up her rifle, adjusted the bipod, checked the scope. Wind was already gusting at 30 knots. Temperature rising fast. The kind of conditions that separated competent shooters from exceptional ones. Her radio crackled. Tempest, this is Ironside. Confirm position. Ironside Tempest, I'm set. 2840 meters north-northwest of checkpoint Alpha. A pause, then Maddox's voice disapproving. That's off mission parameters, Captain. It's the optimal vantage point, Master Sergeant. Optimal for what? You're too far out to provide effective support if contact hits. Kira watched the convoy through her scope, 6 vehicles crawling like beetles across the valley floor. With respect, sir, I can hit targets at this range. You know I can. Distance isn't the question. It's your judgment I'm questioning. Noted. Tempest out. She switched frequencies, keyed into Cole's private channel. Echo 6 Tempest. Cole's response was immediate. Go ahead, Tempest. You see anything wrong down there? Negative. Road's clear. No thermal signatures. But what? It feels wrong, like walking into a room and knowing someone was just there. Kira understood. She'd felt it too. The prickle on the back of her neck. The way the valley seemed too quiet. Too empty. She scanned the ridgelines through her scope. Nothing. Just rock and scrub and the shimmering heat haze. But somewhere out there, if her instincts were right, 50 hostiles were waiting, watching, timing their attack for maximum effect. The convoy reached the first choke point, a narrow section where the road cut between 2 high ridges. Perfect ambush terrain. Nothing happened. They rolled through and continued. Second choke point. Still nothing. Kira's hands were slick with sweat. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe her paranoia had finally consumed her good sense. Maybe Maddox was right, and she was letting her father's and brothers' deaths cloud her judgment. The convoy entered the valley's deepest section, 3 clicks from their destination. Walls of rock on either side the road barely wide enough for two vehicles. And then the world exploded. The first RPG hit the lead Humvee's front quarter panel, lifting the vehicle onto two wheels before it crashed back down. The second RPG slammed into the road ahead, cratering the asphalt and showering the convoy with debris. Then the gunfire started, disciplined, coordinated, coming from multiple positions on both ridges. Kira's scope swept the terrain, her heart hammering but her hands steady. She counted muzzle flashes. 9, 12, 15. More appearing every second. This wasn't a random ambush. This was a planned engagement with overlapping fields of fire. Cole's voice cut through the radio, tight with controlled panic. All units contact left and right were bracketed. Maddox's voice calm as stone. Echo 6 fall back to secondary position. Use the MRAP for cover. Negative, we've got wounded. Intel officers hit bad. Kira watched through her scope as the convoy tried to maneuver. The lead Humvee was disabled, blocking the road. Men were bailing out, returning fire, dragging wounded behind whatever cover they could find. She saw Cole pulling a soldier behind a shattered wheel well. Saw young Corporal Travis Garrett, the unit's medic, frozen in the open, his face white with terror. She shifted her aim to the ridgeline, found a hostile with an RPG lining up another shot at the trapped vehicles. Her crosshairs settled on his center mass. She adjusted for wind, for distance, for the slight cant of the unstable ridge beneath her. Exhaled, squeezed. The rifle kicked. The world reduced to the scope's view. She watched the bullets trace, invisible but somehow tangible. 2,840 meters. 3 seconds of flight. The hostile with the RPG jerked backward, the launcher tumbling from his hands. The rocket fired skyward, exploding harmlessly against the cliff face. Cole's voice over the radio, "Sniper. We've got sniper support." Kira was already acquiring her next target. Machine gunner on the western ridge pouring fire into Cole's position. She adjusted slightly for the angle. Fired. The gunner dropped. Third target. Fourth. Fifth. Each shot precise. Each shot necessary. She fell into the rhythm her father had taught her. Breathe. Acquire. Calculate. Fire. The rifle became an extension of her will, translating intention into action at impossible distance. Below, the ambush wavered. The hostiles had expected easy prey. They'd planned for overwhelming firepower. They hadn't planned on someone reaching out from 3 kilometers away to pluck them from their positions like a god reaching down from the sky. Kira's radio crackled. "Tempest, this is Ironside. What's your status? Engaging targets. Count 30+ hostiles, well coordinated." A pause, then keep firing. You're the only reason we're still breathing. Through her scope, she saw Maddox standing behind the MRAP, directing fire, his bearing steady despite the chaos. 40 years of combat had taught him to function in hell, but even he couldn't shoot through mountains. That was her job. Target 6, 7, 8. The enemy began to break. Some tried to relocate, exposing themselves as they moved. She dropped them mid-stride. Others held position and returning fire blindly in her direction. Their bullets fell short by 2,000 meters. She was too far away for them to reach, but not too far to matter. A hostile appeared with a recoilless rifle aiming at the MRAP. Kira fired, but the ridge trembled beneath her. The shot went wide by inches. The hostile fired. The round hit the MRAP's flank, the explosion rocking the massive vehicle. Kira cursed, adjusted, fired again. This time the shot was true. The hostile dropped, but the ridge trembled again. Stronger this time. Small rocks skittered down the slope. She felt the stone beneath her shift, a movement so subtle most people would have missed it. She didn't miss it. The ridge was failing. The same instability that had kept it clear of hostiles was now turning it into a death trap. Her anchor line was tied to a boulder 20 feet upslope, but she could see new cracks spidering through the rock. Her radio hissed. "Tempest, fall back. Terrain's unstable." "Negative, still have targets." "That's an order, Captain." She found another hostile through her scope. 9th kill, then a 10th, 11th. The enemy was breaking now, retreating in disorganized clusters. But they were still dangerous. Still firing on the pinned convoy. Below, she saw Travis Garrett finally move, dragging the wounded intel officer toward cover. The kid was learning courage under fire, growing up in the span of seconds. She shifted aim to cover his movement, found a hostile lining up on Travis. She fired. The hostel crumpled. The ridge groaned like a living thing, a sound that resonated in her bones. She knew that sound. She'd heard it before in mountains from Afghanistan to Colorado. It was the sound of stone giving up of gravity, reclaiming what had been temporarily suspended. She had maybe 2 minutes before this entire shelf collapsed into the valley. Through her scope, she counted remaining threats. 23 visible hostiles, maybe more in dead ground. The convoy needed more time to consolidate, to evacuate the wounded, to get clear of the kill zone. She had 2 minutes to buy them that time. Kira made her choice. She kept shooting. Target 12, 13, 14. The rifle's barrel was heating the metal, expanding microscopically with each shot. She compensated automatically. 15, 16. The hostile commander appeared, shouting orders in the open. She put him down. Without leadership, the remaining hostiles scattered. 17, 18, 19. The ridge lurched. A section of rock 50 meters to her right sheared away, tumbling into the void. The sound was apocalyptic. Thunder made solid. Cole's voice desperate. "Tempest, you need to move now." She ignored him. 20, 21. Every shot mattered. Every hostile she dropped was one less gun firing at her brothers. 22, 23, 24. The enemy broke entirely. The survivors fled, abandoning weapons, abandoning wounded. She let them go. No point shooting men who were no longer a threat. Below, the convoy was moving. Cole's team had loaded the wounded, started the damaged vehicles. They were escaping the kill zone. They were going to make it. Kira exhaled. Her body ached from holding position for so long. Her shoulder was bruised from the rifle's recoil, but they were safe. She'd given them the time they needed. Then she saw him, one more hostile emerging from dead ground, shouldering an RPG, aiming not at the convoy, but at the MRAP, at Maddox. The range was extreme, the angle awkward, and the ridge was actively collapsing. She didn't hesitate. She fired her 39th shot. The bullet's flight took 3.5 seconds. She watched through the scope as it crossed impossible distance, curved by wind and gravity, pulled by forces she could feel but never fully control. The hostile's head snapped back. The RPG fell unfired. And then the mountain gave way. The shelf beneath Kira fractured. One moment she was on solid ground. The next she was falling through air and stone and dust. Her rifle was torn from her hands. Her anchor line snapped like thread. She tumbled, bouncing off jagged rock, every impact driving the air from her lungs. She hit something solid, a crack between two boulders. Her body wedged there, stopped by luck and physics. Pain exploded through her left arm, her ribs, her leg. She tasted blood. Couldn't tell if it was from her mouth or her nose or somewhere worse. The world was dust and thunder. Rock continued to fall around her, above her, beside her. She curled into a ball, protecting her head, waiting for the stone that would end her. It never came. Gradually the sound faded. The dust settled. Kira uncurled, gasping. Her left arm wouldn't move. Broken probably in multiple places. Her ribs felt like broken glass grinding together. But she was alive. She tried to move. Couldn't. The boulders had her wedged tight. She could barely breathe. Her radio was somewhere nearby, crackling with voices she couldn't quite hear. With her good hand, she felt around. Found something metal. Not her radio, something else. A case, military green, half buried in the rubble. She pulled it free. Stenciled on the side in faded paint, Operation Tempest, 1987. Eyes only. Through the pain, through the shock, Kira felt a chill that had nothing to do with her injuries. She'd fallen into something that had been hidden here for 38 years. She tried to open the case, but her fingers wouldn't work. The world was starting to fade and edges going gray. She heard voices shouting her name. Cole, Maddox, others. She managed to key her radio with her good hand. Echo 6, I'm alive. Wedged in. Can't move. Cole's voice came back, breaking with relief. Hold on. We're coming. Found something. Case. Tempest. Stay awake, Kira. We're moving. She tried, she really did. But the darkness was pulling her down, and she was so tired. So tired of fighting. So tired of being too late. But not today. Today she'd been exactly on time. Today she'd saved them. Her eyes closed. The last thing she thought before unconsciousness took her was that her father would be proud, and Ethan would understand. The world returned in fragments. Pain first sharp and immediate, then sound voices shouting commands through static. Then light filtered through dust that hung in the air like fog. Kira's eyes opened to a narrow slice of sky, blue, impossibly blue, framed by the jagged edges of the boulders that held her trapped. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. Her left arm was a symphony of agony. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Something warm and wet trickled down her face. Blood. Her blood. The radio crackled near her ear. Cole's voice strained with effort. "Tempest, if you can hear me, stay still. We're climbing to you now." She wanted to respond, but her throat was full of dust. She coughed, and the pain in her ribs multiplied. Tears leaked from her eyes. Not from fear, just pain. Pure animal pain that her body couldn't ignore. Her good hand still gripped the metal case. Operation Tempest, 1987. The letter seemed to burn through the faded paint. Whatever was inside had been hidden for 38 years. Hidden in a place no one should survive reaching. She'd survived. Barely. With trembling fingers, she worked the case's latches. They were corroded stubborn. But desperation gave her strength. The first latch popped, then the second. The lid opened with a protest of rusted metal. Inside, wrapped in deteriorating plastic, were documents. Military forms typed on actual typewriters. Communication logs, operational reports, and photographs. Black and white grainy showing men in jungle fatigues. Honduras, probably. 1987, definitely. She recognized one face immediately. Younger, harder, but unmistakable. Franklin Maddox, maybe 25 years old, standing beside an older man with sergeant major stripes. She flipped the photo over. Written on the back in faded ink, SGM Isaiah Cross and SGT Maddox, Operation Tempest, final photo before ambush. Her pulse quickened despite the pain. She shuffled through more documents, found a list of names, American names with notations beside them. Asset Phoenix appeared repeatedly. Next to it, a name that made her blood freeze. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Whitlock. Below that, another designation. Asset Winter, Major V. Andreev, KGB. The pieces assembled themselves in her mind like a puzzle she'd been trying to solve for 6 years. Phoenix and Winter, an American officer and a Soviet intelligence agent, working together in 1987 during the Cold War. The documents detailed operational plans, leaked routes, compromised intelligence, all designed to create ambushes that looked like enemy successes but were actually orchestrated betrayals. She found a list of incidents. Honduras 1987, 12 killed. Iraq 2003, 7 killed. Afghanistan 2019, 9 killed. And at the bottom in different ink, a recent addition, Afghanistan 2025. Today's date, her father's name appeared on the 2003 list. Master Sergeant Patrick Brennan, investigating unauthorized intelligence sharing, eliminated during routine patrol. Ethan's name on the 2019 list. Corporal Ethan Brennan discovered evidence of Protocol Tempest continuation, neutralized during compound clearing operation. They'd been murdered, both of them, not by the enemy, but by someone wearing the same flag. Kira's vision blurred, not from tears this time, from rage, pure incandescent rage that burned through the pain, through the shock, through everything. She heard scraping above, rocks being moved, Cole's voice closer now. "Kira, can you hear me?" She managed to croak out a response. "Here, I'm here. Hold on, we're almost through." A boulder shifted, light flooded in blinding. Hands reached for her, careful, gentle. Cole's face appeared streaked with dust and concern. Behind him, Maddox breathing hard, his face gray with exertion. "Easy," Cole said. "Don't move yet. Travis, get up here with that medical kit." Young Travis Garrett scrambled into view. His earlier fear replaced by focused determination. He'd learned fast. War taught quickly or killed slowly. He began checking Kira's vitals, his hands steady despite the circumstances. Left arm's broken, multiple rib fractures, possible internal bleeding. She needs a medevac now. Travis looked at Cole. "Sir, we can't move her far. Not in this condition." Maddox knelt beside Kira. His eyes swept over her injuries, cataloging them with the efficiency of a man who'd seen countless wounded soldiers. Then his gaze fell on the case still clutched in her good hand. His expression changed. Something flickered across his face too fast to identify. Recognition, fear, something. Where did you find that? His voice was quiet, dangerous. Kira met his eyes. It was here, hidden in the rocks, since 1987. You shouldn't have opened it. My father's name is inside, my brother's name. They were killed because of whatever this is. Maddox reached for the case. Kira pulled it away, wincing at the pain the movement caused. Captain, that's classified material. You're not cleared for... I'm cleared for dying in the same trap that killed them. Her voice was stronger now, fueled by anger. You were there, Master Sergeant? Honduras, 1987. You served under Isaiah Cross. He died investigating this. Maddox's jaw clenched. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he sat back on his heels, suddenly looking every one of his 65 years. Isaiah was my mentor. He suspected a traitor. I should have listened. Cole was reading over Kira's shoulder, his face growing darker. Whitlock, the colonel. He's been doing this for 38 years. Not just Whitlock. Kira found another documented communication log. He's working with someone, Andreev, former KGB. The Cold War ended, but they kept going, creating conflicts, selling intelligence, getting soldiers killed for profit. Travis had stopped his medical assessment, staring at the documents. They killed people for money, our own people. War is profitable, Maddox said quietly. If the wars stop, the money stops. So you make sure the wars don't stop. A sound cut through the conversation. Rotors, distant but growing closer. The medevac helicopter responding to their emergency call. But another sound followed. Sharper. Closer. The distinctive whistle of an RPG launch. Down, Cole threw himself over Kira. Maddox grabbed Travis, pulling the young medic behind a boulder. The rocket screamed overhead, missing the crevice by 20 meters. It impacted the slope above, sending a cascade of new debris tumbling down. Through the gap in the rocks, Kira saw figures moving on the opposite ridge. Not retreating. Regrouping. They'd been ordered to confirm the kills, ensure no one walked away from this ambush. Cole keyed his radio. Air support, we have enemy resurgence. Need immediate suppression. The response came back broken by static. Echo 6, be advised, air support is 15 minutes out. Can you hold? Cole looked at their position. Trapped in a collapsed ridge, one soldier critically wounded, ammunition running low. Negative. We need support now. Maddox had moved to the edge of the crevasse, his rifle ready. We've got maybe a dozen hostiles reforming. They're going to push hard, try to finish what they started. Kira's mind raced through their options. All of them bad. They couldn't move her without proper equipment. The medevac couldn't land under fire. Air support was too far away. They were going to die here. All of them. Just like her father. Just like Ethan. Unless... My rifle, Kira said. Where is it? Cole shook his head. It's gone. Fell into the gorge when the ridge collapsed. There's a backup weapon cache in the Humvee, the M110. Bring it to me. Kira, you can't shoot. You can barely breathe. I can breathe enough, and I'm the only one here who can hit targets at the range we need. Maddox turned from his position. Captain, you have a broken arm and 3 broken ribs. You'd have to shoot from an awkward angle in unstable terrain with unfamiliar equipment. It's impossible. Kira's laugh was bitter. I just made 39 shots from a collapsing mountain, 800 meters. Impossible is relative, Master Sergeant. Travis was already moving. I'll get the rifle. Which Humvee? Second one. Case is marked backup precision. Bring all the ammunition you can carry. As Travis scrambled down the slope, Cole helped prop Kira into a semi-sitting position. Every movement was torture, but she'd learned to function through pain. Pain was just information, her body telling her she was still alive. Maddox watched her with an expression she couldn't read. Your father did something similar once. Desert storm. Broken collarbone from a vehicle rollover. Still took out 6 targets while our squad extracted. Did it work? We're here, aren't we? Travis returned, breathing hard, carrying the M110 and 4 magazines. The rifle was shorter than her .338, chambered in 7.62 NATO. Less range, less power, but semi-automatic. Faster follow-up shots if she needed them. Cole helped her position the rifle. Her left arm was useless, splinted by Travis with practiced efficiency. But she could brace the rifle against the rock, use her right hand for trigger, and bolt. It wouldn't be pretty. It would hurt like hell. But it would work. She sighted through the scope. The hostiles were moving in pairs, advancing using cover. Professional, well-trained. This wasn't local Taliban. This was something else. Range about 600 meters, she said. Winds gusting 15 to 20 knots. Elevation advantage is ours. Maddox settled in beside her rifle ready. I'll spot and cover. You focus on the priority targets. The ones with the RPGs first. Agreed. Cole positioned himself at the crevasse opening, ready to provide suppression fire if the hostiles got close. Travis stayed with Kira, ready to assist or pull her back if the position became untenable. The first hostile appeared in Kira's scope, carrying an RPG moving toward a firing position. She adjusted for wind for distance for the awkward angle forced by her injuries. Her breathing was shallow, each breath sending pain through her ribs. She exhaled as much as she dared. Held. Fired. The hostile dropped. The RPG clattered against rocks unfired. Hit, Maddox confirmed. Second target, 11 o'clock, same weapon. Kira shifted, found the target, fired. Another hit. The hostiles realized they were under precision fire. They scattered, seeking deeper cover, but movement made them vulnerable. Kira fired again, and again. Each shot cost her the recoil, driving against her broken ribs like a hammer. But each shot mattered. Maddox called targets in a steady rhythm. 3 o'clock machine gunner, 9 o'clock spotter, 12 o'clock commander. Kira's world narrowed to the scope, the trigger, the rhythm of violence made precise. She'd trained for this her entire adult life. Every hour on the range. Every round fired in practice. All of it building to moments like this when skill meant survival. She dropped the machine gunner among. Then the spotter. The commander saw his men falling and tried to pull back. She shot him as he turned. The enemy assault faltered. Without leadership, without heavy weapons, they lost their momentum. Cole added his fire, pushing them further back. Above, the helicopter appeared. Not the medevac, a gunship Apache, its cannon already spinning. The pilot's voice crackled over the radio. Echo 6, we have eyes on hostiles. Request permission to engage. Granted, light them up. The Apache's cannon roared. 30mm rounds tore into the enemy position with devastating effect. The remaining hostiles broke and ran. The Apache pursued them down the valley, its chain gun firing in controlled bursts. Silence fell, sudden and complete, just the wind and the sound of Kira's labored breathing. She lowered the rifle. Her vision swam. Black spots danced at the edges. She'd pushed too hard, demanded too much from a body that had nothing left to give. Kira, Cole's voice seemed distant. Stay with us. She tried to respond, but the darkness was rising like a tide. Her last conscious thought was wondering if 39 shots would be enough. If all her shooting, all her training, all her desperate attempts to never be too late would actually matter. Then the darkness took her, and she knew nothing at all. She woke to white ceiling tiles and the smell of antiseptic. Hospital, base hospital, judging by the institutional quality of everything. Her left arm was in a proper cast, now suspended in a sling. Her ribs were wrapped tight. An IV drip fed clear fluid into her right arm. Everything hurt, but it was the dulled hurt of serious painkillers. Morphine, probably. Enough to take the edge off without putting her completely under. A nurse appeared, checking her vitals with efficient movements. Welcome back, Captain. You've been out for 18 hours. The others, her voice was rough throat raw from dust and dehydration. Your unit's fine, all survived. The medic says you saved their lives. The nurse adjusted her IV. Doctor will be in soon. Try to rest. After the nurse left, Kira stared at the ceiling. 18 hours. She'd lost almost a full day. Anything could have happened in that time. Evidence could have disappeared. Stories could have been coordinated. The truth could have been buried again the way it had been buried for 38 years. She tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her ribs, forcing her back down. The door opened. Cole walked in, looking exhausted but alive. His uniform was clean, but she could see the weight of combat still on him. The invisible burden that all soldiers carried. You're awake. He pulled a chair beside her bed, sat heavily. You scared the hell out of us, Kira. Travis said your blood pressure was in the basement. Another few minutes and... But I didn't. I'm here. Yeah, you're here. He was quiet for a moment. 43 confirmed kills. That's what they're saying. 39 in the initial engagement. 4 more during the counter-assault. At distances ranging from 600 to 2 to 800 meters. In impossible conditions. While critically wounded. I don't feel like a hero. Good. Heroes are usually dead. You're just incredibly skilled and completely insane. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Where's the case, the documents? Cole's expression darkened. Secured. Colonel Whitlock tried to classify them, pull them out of evidence. Maddox stopped him. Got into a shouting match in the command center. I've never seen the master sergeant that angry. What happens now? Investigation. Criminal investigation. Army CID is already on base. They've got Whitlock confined to quarters pending charges. They're looking for Andrea, but he's vanished. Probably fled the country. Kira closed her eyes. My father, Ethan. They died trying to expose this. And you finished what they started. That has to count for something. It doesn't bring them back. No, but it makes their deaths mean something. The door opened again. Maddox entered, moving slowly as if he'd aged a decade in a day. He nodded to Cole, who stood and left without a word. Some conversations needed to be private. Maddox pulled the chair closer. For a long time, he said nothing, just sat there, hands folded, staring at nothing. Finally, he spoke. I spent 38 years thinking I'd failed Isaiah Cross, thinking if I'd been smarter, faster, better, I could have stopped it, saved him, exposed Phoenix before more men died. You were just a sergeant. You didn't have the power. That's what I told myself. But the truth is, I was scared. I saw what happened to Isaiah when he pushed too hard. I didn't want to be next. Maddox's voice was heavy with old guilt. Your father came to me in 2003, said he'd found something wrong with the intelligence protocols, asked me what I knew about Operation Tempest. I told him to drop it, to focus on his mission and stop chasing ghosts. Kira's chest tightened, not from her injuries, from understanding. He died 3 weeks later, Maddox continued, and I told myself it was coincidence, just bad luck, because admitting the truth meant admitting I let another good man walk into a trap. You couldn't have known. I knew. I just didn't want to believe it. He finally looked at her. When Ethan came to me with the same questions 6 years ago, I almost told him. Almost came clean. But I was 2 years from retirement. 2 years from getting out with full pension. I was tired. I'd seen too much. I just wanted to finish my time and go home. So you said nothing. So I said nothing. And he died too. Maddox's hands trembled. 3 generations of Brennans, all trying to expose the same conspiracy, all meeting the same fate, except you. You survived. And you did what I couldn't. You stopped it. Kira wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at him for his cowardice, his complicity through silence. But looking at this broken old man, she saw only another victim. Another person crushed by a system designed to protect itself at any cost. You could have told me, she said quietly, before this mission. You could have warned me. I almost did. Standing on that range watching you shoot, I saw Patrick. Saw the same determination, the same refusal to accept that some things can't be fixed. Maddox wiped his eyes. I thought if I stayed close, if I was there as advisor, I could protect you, keep you from making the same mistakes your father made. By doubting me, by questioning my judgment, by trying to make you stay back, stay safe. If you'd listened, if you'd stayed at the authorized Overwatch position, you'd have been too far to save us, and you'd still be alive. I'd rather be alive and effective than safe and useless. I know, that's what makes you your father's daughter. He reached into his jacket, pulled out something wrapped in cloth, set it on her bedside table. Found this in the gorge. Took me 4 hours of climbing, but I got it. Kira unwrapped the cloth, her rifle. Battered, scratched, the scope cracked. But intact. Recoverable. She ran her good hand along the stock, felt the familiar grooves worn by years of use. Thank you, she whispered. It's a good rifle. Deserves to come home. Maddox stood moving like every joint hurt. They're giving you a medal, Silver Valor Cross. Ceremony's next week, assuming you're recovered enough. I don't want a medal. I know, but you'll take it anyway. Because 43 men are breathing because of you. They need to honor that, to remember that what you did matters. After he left, Kira held the rifle across her lap. Her fingers traced the damage, cataloging each new scratch, each fresh dent. The rifle had been with her for 6 years, through a dozen deployments. Thousands of rounds fired. It had been the tool she'd used to fulfill her promise to never be too late, and it had saved her brothers. She thought about her father holding a similar rifle in Desert Storm, about Ethan carrying his weapon through Helmand Province, about the line of soldiers stretching back through generations, all of them trying to do one simple thing: protect the people beside them. The door opened. Travis Garrett entered hesitantly. "Ma'am, sorry to bother you. Just wanted to check your dressings." "Come in, Travis." He approached with the careful nervousness of a young soldier addressing a superior, but his hands were steady as he checked her bandages, adjusted her IV flow. Combat had changed him. The frightened kid who'd frozen in the kill zone was gone, replaced by someone harder, more capable. "You did good out there," Kira said. "Kept your head, saved the intel officer." "I froze at first. Would have died if you hadn't covered me." "Everyone freezes the first time. It's what you do after that matters." Travis finished his checks, seemed to want to say something more. Finally, "My father served in Iraq, 2006. He was killed in an ambush outside Fallujah. I always thought it was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. But after reading those documents," Kira understood. "You think he was set up too?" "His unit was wiped out. Only 2 survivors. The intel that sent them there was bad. Everyone knew it was bad, but they went anyway because orders are orders." "What was your father's name?" "Sergeant William Garrett. He was a combat medic. 28 years old. I was 3. Kira thought about the list of names in the Operation Tempest documents. She'd only glanced at the 2006 entries, but she remembered seeing Fallujah mentioned. "When this investigation finishes, demand access to the files. If your father's death was part of this, you deserve to know." "Will they tell me?" "They will if I have anything to say about it. We're past the point of keeping secrets to protect the guilty." After Travis left, Kira lay in the dark, thinking about all the names on all the lists. 38 years of betrayal, hundreds dead. And for what defense contracts? Profit margins. The banal evil of bureaucrats who decided that some lives were acceptable losses in the pursuit of wealth. Her father had tried to stop it. Ethan had tried. Sergeant Major Cross had tried. All of them died for it. She'd survived, and survival meant obligation, meant responsibility, meant finishing what they'd started. The door opened once more. A figure in a suit, not a uniform. Civilian. He held credentials: Army Criminal Investigation Command. Special Agent Morrison. "Captain Brennan, I'm glad you're awake. We have questions." Kira sat up despite the pain. "I have answers, and I want immunity for everyone who testifies. Cole, Maddox, Travis. They tell the truth without fear of charges." Morrison smiled slightly. "We're not here to prosecute the victims, Captain. We're here to bury the guilty." "Then you'd better bring a big shovel. This goes deeper than one colonel. We know. Andreev's network spans 4 decades in 12 countries. But we'll start with Whitlock. And with your testimony, we'll make it count." Kira told him everything. About the documents, about the patterns, about her father's suspicions and Ethan's discoveries, about Maddox's guilt and complicity through silence. She held nothing back. When she finished, Morrison closed his notebook. "This is going to trial, congressional hearings, media coverage. You understand your life is about to become very public. I understand. I don't care. All I care about is making sure no one else dies because someone decided their life was worth less than a profit margin." "Then we're on the same page, Captain." After he left, Kira finally allowed herself to rest. Real rest, not the unconsciousness of injury and exhaustion. She closed her eyes and thought about Ethan, about his last words in that compound 6 years ago. "It's happening like the old protocol. Dad was right. Trust no one above Colonel." She'd been too late to save him then, but she wasn't too late to honor his memory, to make sure his death meant something more than another name on a casualty list. The storm had passed. The tempest had done its work. But storms always returned, and when they did, she'd be ready. Outside her window, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the peaks in shades of gold and red. beautiful and deadly like everything in this country. She watched until darkness fell and the stars emerged. Somewhere out there in a hospital or a command center or a cell awaiting trial, Colonel Whitlock sat with his secrets finally exposed. The phoenix had fallen, but Kira knew the truth. There were always more phoenixes, more conspiracies, more betrayals waiting to be uncovered. Her father had fought one war. Ethan had fought another. Now it was her turn. And she wasn't fighting alone anymore. She had brothers in arms. She had the truth. And she had 39 shots worth of proof that distance wasn't safety. It was justice reaching out across impossible ranges to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. That was enough. That had to be enough. She closed her eyes and slept without nightmares for the first time in 6 years. The nightmares came on the third night. Kira woke gasping, her hand reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. The hospital room was dark except for the glow of monitoring equipment. Her heart hammered against broken ribs, each beat a reminder of how close she'd come to joining her father and brother in the ground. But it wasn't the ambush that haunted her sleep. It wasn't the ridge collapse or the pain of her injuries. It was a face. Young, maybe 17, with eyes wide with fear and determination. The hostile she'd killed, the one who'd been reaching for a grenade when her bullet found him. She'd seen his face clearly through her scope in that frozen moment before she fired. Seen him mouth something. A prayer maybe, or a name. Then he'd fallen and she'd moved to the next target because that's what snipers did. They compartmentalized, they moved on. But at night the faces came back. A nurse appeared, drawn by her elevated heart rate on the monitors. "Captain, you okay?" "Fine, just a dream. Want something to help you sleep?" No. Sleep meant dreams and dreams meant faces. Better to stay awake. "What time is it?" 0400. Still early. Try to rest if you can. After the nurse left, Kira lay in the dark thinking about the boy she'd killed, wondering if he'd had a sister, a mother, someone who'd loved him and sent him off to fight someone else's war, someone who'd grieve when his body came home, if it came home. The door opened quietly. Cole slipped in carrying 2 cups of coffee. He set one on her bedside table. "Heard you were awake. Figured you could use this." "You're up early." "Haven't slept much." He sat in the chair cradling his own cup. "Keep seeing the valley, the ambush, how close we came. We made it. Because of you. If you'd listened to Maddox stayed at the authorized position, we'd all be dead." Kira sipped the coffee. It was terrible, but it was hot and caffeinated. "I keep seeing the kid, the one with the grenade. He was Ethan's age. He was trying to kill us." "I know. Doesn't make it easier." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, "Your brother talked about you all the time. Did you know that he'd sit in the tent at night cleaning his rifle, telling stories? About how you'd learn to shoot before you could read. How your dad would take you both to the range every Sunday. How you could hit targets he couldn't even see. He was a better soldier than I'll ever be. He was brave and loyal and too damn trusting. You're smart and careful and you question everything. That's why you're alive, and he's not." The words hurt because they were true. Ethan had believed in the system, in the chain of command, in the idea that good soldiers followed orders and trusted their leaders. That trust had killed him. Kira had learned to trust no one, and that skepticism had saved her life. "CID finished interviewing Maddox last night," Cole said. "He's being given immunity in exchange for full testimony. Everything he knows about Operation Tempest, Isaiah Cross, the whole conspiracy, he'll testify against Whitlock." "Good. He's also requested permission to testify at your medal ceremony. Wants to present the citation himself." Kira looked at Cole. "Why would he do that?" "Because he failed your father and your brother. This is the only way he knows how to make it right." The days blurred together. Physical therapy sessions where she learned to use her broken body again. Interviews with CID agents who cataloged every detail of the ambush, the documents, the conspiracy. Visits from her unit from base personnel she'd never met, from people who wanted to see the woman who'd made 43 kills in impossible conditions. She hated it. The attention, the praise, the way people looked at her like she was something special. She wasn't special. She was just someone who'd been too stubborn to die and too skilled to miss. Travis came by every day checking her medical progress, with the focused attention of a medic who'd learned his craft under fire. On the fifth day, he brought news. My father's name was in the documents. Sergeant William Garrett killed in Fallujah, 2006. The ambush that killed him was set up using intelligence that Whitlock provided to Andreev's network. Kira saw the pain in his young face, the way it mixed with rage and grief. I'm sorry, Travis. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Help me make sure everyone knows what they did. I will, I promise. They're giving him a new memorial, upgrading his posthumous citation to include the fact that he was killed in a deliberately compromised operation. It's not justice, but it's something. After Travis left, Kira stared at the ceiling, thinking about how many families had been destroyed by Whitlock's greed. How many sons and daughters and fathers and mothers had died so defense contractors could profit from endless war. The anger felt clean, righteous. It burned away the guilt over the boy she'd killed, the doubt about her choices, the weight of survival when so many others had died. She would testify. She would make sure the world knew what Whitlock had done, and she would make damn sure it never happened again. On the seventh day, Maddox came to her room. He looked older somehow, as if confessing his sins had aged him a decade. He carried a wooden case, polished and worn. Brought you something. He set the case on her lap. Open it. Why, inside, nestled in foam, was a rifle scope. Old military grade with scratches and wear that spoke of long service. Engraved on the side, MS Jean Patrick Brennan, Desert Storm, 1991. Kira's throat tightened. Dad's scope. He gave it to me before his last deployment. Said if anything happened, I should give it to you when you were ready. Maddox's voice was rough. I kept it for 22 years. Told myself you weren't ready yet. Truth is, I wasn't ready to admit he'd been right all along. About Whitlock. About everything. He knew the system was rotten. Knew someone high up was selling out soldiers for profit. He tried to tell me, tried to get me to help him expose it. I told him he was paranoid. Told him to focus on his mission and stop chasing conspiracy theories. Kira ran her fingers over the engraved name. Her father's hands had touched this. His eye had pressed against this glass, searching for targets across desert sands. 3 weeks later, he was dead, Maddox continued. And I told myself it was coincidence. Had to be. Because if it wasn't, that meant I'd killed him by refusing to believe. You didn't kill him. Whitlock did. I let it happen. Same thing. Maddox sat heavily. Your scope's destroyed. Cracked when you fell. This one's from a different era, different rifle. But a good gunsmith can mount it. Your father would want you to have it. Thank you. Don't thank me. I don't deserve thanks. I deserve a court-martial for cowardice, for letting good men die because I was too scared to act. Kira looked at this broken old soldier, this man who'd carried his guilt for nearly 4 decades. You're testifying. You're helping take down Whitlock's network. That takes courage. It takes shame. There's a difference. After he left, Kira held the scope, feeling the weight of legacy in her hands. 3 generations of Brennans, all soldiers, all trying to do the right thing in a system designed to protect the wrong people. Her father had tried and died. Ethan had tried and died. She'd tried and survived. That meant she had to finish it, for all of them. The medal ceremony was scheduled for the 10th day. By then, Kira could walk without assistance, though her ribs still screamed with every breath, and her left arm was useless. They'd given her a dress uniform medal she'd earned over 6 years of service, arranged precisely on her chest. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a stranger, a decorated soldier, a hero, someone who'd saved her unit and exposed a conspiracy that reached back 4 decades. But she still felt like the girl who'd arrived 10 minutes too late to save her brother. The ceremony was held in the base auditorium, packed with soldiers, officers, support staff, camera crews from military news networks, CID agents standing against the walls watching for any sign of trouble. Whitlock was in custody, but Andreev was still at large, and there were concerns about reprisals. Kira stood backstage, breathing carefully, trying to manage the pain without showing weakness. Cole appeared beside him. Ready for this? No. Good. If you were ready, I'd worry you'd lost your mind. Have you seen the crowd out there? 300 people, maybe more. Word got around about what you did, about what you exposed. Every soldier on this base owes you. They don't owe me anything. I was just doing my job. You did everyone's job. You were the sniper, the investigator, the witness, and the whistleblower. All at once. That's not just doing your job. That's being exceptional. Music started. The ceremony was beginning. Cole squeezed her shoulder once and left to take a seat. Kira waited in the wings, listening to the opening remarks, the recitation of her service record, the clinical description of her actions during the ambush. 43 confirmed enemy kills, 2.88 kilometers, impossible conditions, saved 5 American lives while critically wounded, exposed a conspiracy that compromised national security. The words made it sound clean, heroic. They didn't mention the boy's face, the pain of broken bones, the weight of knowing her father and brother had died trying to reveal the same truth. Her name was called. She walked onto the stage, each step carefully measured. The crowd stood applauding. She saw Task Unit Orion in the front row, Cole and Travis and the others she'd saved. She saw Maddox standing in the back, ramrod straight, despite his age. She saw empty chairs too, one for her father, one for Ethan, symbols of the fallen who couldn't be here to see this moment. The base commander spoke, reading the citation. Words about valor and courage and exceptional service. Then Maddox was called forward to present the medal. He climbed the stairs slowly, carrying a wooden case. He opened it. The silver Valor Cross gleamed against dark velvet. He lifted it carefully, held it up for the crowd to see. Captain Kira Brennan, he said, his voice carrying through the auditorium. In my 42 years of service, I have witnessed acts of courage that defied explanation. I have seen soldiers do impossible things because their brothers needed them. But I have never seen anything like what you did on that ridge. He paused, seeming to gather himself. Your father, Master Sergeant Patrick Brennan, was my best friend. He was also the finest soldier I ever served with. He died trying to expose a betrayal that should never have existed. Your brother, Corporal Ethan Brennan, died following in his footsteps, trying to reveal a truth that powerful men wanted buried. The crowd was silent. This wasn't part of the script. Maddox was supposed to present the medal and step back, but he kept talking. I failed them both. I knew the truth. I suspected the conspiracy, but I was a coward. I stayed quiet because speaking up was dangerous and silence was safe. I told myself it wasn't my fight, that I was just following orders. His voice cracked. Patrick and Ethan died because I chose safety over honor. They died because I failed to act when action was needed. Kira wanted to tell him to stop, that this wasn't necessary, but she understood. This was his confession, his public acknowledgement of guilt. Captain Brennan did what I couldn't. She questioned orders when they felt wrong. She put herself at risk to save her brothers. And she refused to let another conspiracy claim another generation of soldiers. She finished what her father and brother started at tremendous personal cost. Maddox turned to face Kira directly. You honor your family. You honor every soldier who ever trusted their leaders and died for that trust. And you remind an old man what courage actually looks like. He pinned the medal to her uniform. His hands shook slightly, but his eyes were clear. Then he saluted, holding it until she returned it. The crowd erupted in applause, but Kira barely heard it. She was looking at the empty chairs, imagining her father and brother sitting there proud and at peace. The ceremony continued. Other speeches, more applause. But it all seemed distant, unreal. Kira stood at attention, maintaining military bearing despite the pain, despite the exhaustion. When it finally ended, she was mobbed by well-wishers. Soldiers wanting to shake her hand, thank her, tell her their own stories of suspicion and doubt about missions that went wrong. She listened to each one, making mental notes. Names, dates, suspicious patterns. The conspiracy was bigger than Whitlock and Andreev. It had to be. 38 years of coordinated betrayal required infrastructure. Networks, people willing to trade lives for profit. Travis found her in the crowd. Ma'am, there are people asking for you. Families of soldiers who died in suspicious ambushes. They want to talk. How many? 17 so far. More coming forward every hour. Kira felt the weight settle on her shoulders. The weight of being the one who survived, who exposed the truth, who now had to help others find their own answers. Set up meetings. I'll talk to all of them. Cole appeared with her jacket. You should rest. You've been standing for 2 hours. Your medical orders say, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on adrenaline and stubbornness. Come on, sit down. Let's get you somewhere quiet. He guided her away from the crowd through back corridors to a small office that had been set aside for her. She collapsed into a chair, the pain finally overwhelming the determination that had kept her upright. Here, Cole handed her water and pain medication. Take these. She swallowed the pills, leaned back, closed her eyes. How many? How many what? How many soldiers died because of Whitlock? The documents showed dozens, but there have to be more. Operations that weren't documented, ambushes that were written off as bad luck. CID estimates over 200 casualties directly linked to compromised intelligence over 38 years. But the real number could be 3 times that. 200 families, 200 sets of parents and siblings and children who'd been told their soldier died honorably, never knowing the truth. We have to tell them, Kira said. Every single one, they deserve to know. That's not your job. Let CID handle it. CID will write reports, issue findings, send official letters. But someone needs to look these families in the eye and tell them their father or brother or daughter didn't die because of enemy action. They died because someone in our own military sold them out for money. That someone doesn't have to be you. It has to be someone who understands. Someone who lost family the same way. That's me. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, Ethan told me once that you'd either save the world or destroy yourself trying. I'm worried you're trying to do both. I'm trying to make sure no more brothers die waiting for backup that never comes. That's all. That's everything. Over the next 2 weeks, Kira met with families, listened to their stories, showed them the documents that proved their loved ones had been betrayed. Some cried, some raged, some just sat in silence processing the truth they'd suspected but never confirmed. She met Sarah Mackenzie, whose husband had died in Honduras in 1987. Sergeant Major Isaiah Cross's widow, who'd spent 38 years believing her husband had fallen in honorable combat. I knew something was wrong, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the tears. Isaiah told me he'd found evidence of a traitor. He was going to report it. Then 3 days later, he was dead. They said it was enemy fire, that he died instantly, but I never believed it. He was right, Kira told her. He found the traitor, and the traitor killed him to keep the secret. Franklin Maddox was there. He was Isaiah's protege. Did he know? He suspected, but he was young and scared. He didn't act. Sarah's expression hardened. He should have. Isaiah trusted him, and Franklin let him die unavenged. Franklin's testifying now, helping to bring down the entire network. It's late, but it's something. It's not enough, but I suppose nothing ever is. Kira met David Brennan, her father's younger brother, an uncle she barely knew who distanced himself from the family after Patrick's death. I told Patrick to let it go, David said. He showed me evidence, strange patterns in operational orders, communications that didn't make sense. He said someone high up was dirty. I told him he was being paranoid, that the military didn't work that way. You were wrong. I was scared. Scared that if I believed him, I'd have to do something about it. Easier to pretend he was imagining things. David looked at Kira with red-rimmed eyes. He died because I didn't believe him. Ethan died because I didn't warn him. You almost died because I stayed silent. I didn't die, and I'm making sure Dad and Ethan's deaths meant something. Does it help knowing the truth? Kira thought about the boy's face in her nightmares, about the weight of 43 kills, about the pain of broken bones and the exhaustion of fighting battles that should never have been necessary. No, she said honestly, but it's better than the alternative. The trial began on the 30th day. Colonel Raymond Whitlock charged with treason, conspiracy murder, and a dozen other counts. The courtroom was packed with press, with military personnel, with families of the fallen. Kira sat in the front row dressed in her service uniform, the Silver Valor Cross prominent on her chest. Beside her, Maddox in full dress uniform, his 4 decades of ribbons and decorations, a testament to a career built on sacrifice and compromise by silence. Whitlock entered in shackles flanked by MPs. He looked smaller, somehow, diminished by exposure. His silver hair was disheveled, his face was drawn, but his eyes were defiant. He saw Kira and held her gaze. No apology, no shame. Just calculation, as if even now he was trying to figure the angles, find the escape route. The prosecution laid out the case methodically. Documents from Operation Tempest, communication logs showing intelligence passed to Andreev, financial records tracking payments to offshore accounts, testimony from survivors, from investigators, from intelligence analysts who'd suspected but never proved the conspiracy. Maddox testified for 6 hours. Describing Operation Tempest, Isaiah Cross's investigation, his own suspicions and failures. He named names, provided dates, connected dots that had seemed random but formed a clear pattern of betrayal. Cole testified about Ethan's death, about the mission parameters that made no tactical sense, about the ambush that was too well coordinated to be random. Travis testified about his father, about the Fallujah ambush, about the families who'd been lied to for decades. Then it was Kira's turn. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed lieutenant colonel, approached with a file folder. "Captain Brennan, please describe the events of October 15th. Kira told the story, the briefing, the suspiciously familiar route, her decision to take unauthorized overwatch position, the ambush, the 39 shots, the collapse, the documents she'd found. And what did those documents reveal? That Colonel Whitlock had been selling operational intelligence to a former KGB agent for 38 years. That he'd orchestrated ambushes that killed over 200 American soldiers, including my father and brother. That he'd done it for profit, for defense contracts, for money. How did it make you feel learning this truth?" Kira looked directly at Whitlock, angry, betrayed, and determined to make sure every family who lost someone knew the real reason why. The defense attorney, a civilian warrior with expensive clothes and practiced sympathy, stood for cross-examination. "Captain Brennan, you suffered serious injuries during this engagement. A broken arm, 3 broken ribs, possible concussion. Is it possible your memory of finding these documents is confused? That perhaps you imagined details while in shock?" "I didn't imagine anything. The documents were real. See, I'd verified their authenticity. But you were in tremendous pain, taking medication. Your judgment might have been impaired." "My judgment was clear enough to make 43 confirmed kills at extreme range while critically injured. I think I can remember opening a metal case." A ripple of approval through the courtroom. The defense attorney changed tactics. "You had personal animosity toward Colonel Whitlock, didn't you? Your father and brother died on his watch. You blamed him for their deaths even before finding these documents. I blamed the system, the leaks, the betrayals. The documents confirmed Whitlock was responsible. Or you found documents that confirmed your existing prejudice and interpreted them in a way that supported your theory." Kira's voice went cold. "My theory, counselor, is supported by 38 years of evidence, by financial records, by operational logs, by the testimony of dozens of witnesses. This isn't prejudice. This is proof." The cross-examination continued, but it was futile. The evidence was overwhelming. Whitlock's defense crumbled under the weight of documentation, testimony, and financial trails that led directly to his accounts. On the 45th day, the verdict came. Guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Whitlock showed no emotion as the sentence was read. He simply stood shoulder straight, maintaining military bearing even in defeat. As the MPs led him away, he paused beside Kira's seat. "You think you've won," he said quietly, "but there are others. The network is bigger than you know. You cut off one head, 2 more will grow. Then I'll cut off those too. You'll spend your whole life fighting shadows, die young, burned out, alone. Better that than spending my life as a traitor." He smiled without humor. "We'll see." They took him away. The courtroom erupted in conversation. Kira sat quietly, feeling empty. This should have been a moment of triumph. Justice for her father. For Ethan. For Isaiah Cross and William Garrett and all the others who died because someone decided their lives were currency. But Whitlock's words echoed. There are others. She knew he was right. A conspiracy this deep, this long-lasting, couldn't be the work of 2 men. There were more traitors, more people selling out soldiers for profit, and she would find them. Cole found her outside the courthouse, standing in autumn sunlight that felt too bright, too normal for the darkness they'd just exposed. "It's over," he said. "It's not over. Whitlock said there are others." Of course he did. He's trying to make you paranoid. Don't let him win by making you see enemies everywhere. Someone supplied Andreev with intelligence after Whitlock was arrested. Someone told the hostiles we'd be on that route. The conspiracy didn't die with Whitlock. Then let CID handle it. You've done enough. More than enough. Kira turned to face him. Can you stop? Can you just walk away knowing there are more traitors out there? Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then, no, I can't. Neither can I. 2 weeks after the trial, an envelope arrived. No return address, military postal stamp, inside a single sheet of paper and a photograph. The photograph showed a man in his 50s military contractor badge standing outside a nondescript office building in Arlington, Virginia. The paper had 3 words printed in block capitals. Project Sentinel activated. Below that, a number, a secure line, a contact point for people who wanted to fight the shadows. Kira stared at the photograph. She recognized the building, recognized what kind of contractors worked there. Intelligence, black operations, the kind of work that didn't appear in public budgets. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Captain Brennan, my name is Director Samantha Cross. Isaiah Cross was my father. Kira's pulse quickened. I met your mother. I know. She told me about you, about what you did, about what you're still trying to do. A pause, Manchus. Project Sentinel was my father's creation, a contingency plan in case Operation Tempest was ever exposed. A network of people committed to rooting out corruption in the military, no matter how deep it goes. What do you want from me? I want you to finish what 3 generations of soldiers started. Whitlock and Andreev were 2 nodes in a network with 7 active protocols. We need someone who understands the bomb, someone who won't stop until every traitor is exposed. I'm one person, with a broken arm and 3 months of physical therapy ahead. You're the person who made 43 kills from a collapsing mountain, who exposed a 38-year conspiracy, who has the trust of the families and the respect of the soldiers. Director Cross's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. You're exactly who we need. The question is whether you're willing. Kira thought about her father's scope mounted now on her repaired rifle, about Ethan's last words, about the boy's face in her nightmares and the weight of survival. I'm willing. What do you need me to do? Pack light, team assembles in 72 hours. Location will be transmitted. This is an official military operation. It's off the books. Deniable. Dangerous. Story of my life. One more thing, Captain. Master Sergeant Maddox has requested to join the team. He says he has 40 years of experience and 40 years of guilt to make up for. I'm inclined to accept him. Your thoughts? Kira looked out her window at the mountains beyond the base. Beautiful and deadly, like everything worth doing. Bring him, he's earned the right to finish this. See you in 72 hours, Tempest. Welcome to Sentinel. The line went dead. Autumn. Kira stood in her quarters holding the photograph, feeling the weight of decisions settle on her shoulders. She could walk away. Take medical retirement. Live a quiet life somewhere far from wars and conspiracies. But that wasn't who she was. That wasn't who her father had raised her to be. That wasn't what Ethan would want. She opened her footlocker, pulled out her rifle case. Inside, her rebuilt weapon with her father's scope mounted, battle-scarred but functional. She ran her fingers over the engraving. MS Jean Patrick Brennan, Desert Storm, 1991. 3 generations of Brennans. 3 generations of soldiers who refused to accept that some betrayals were too big to fight. Her father had started the fight. Ethan had continued it. She would finish it. She began to pack. 72 hours later, she stood on a tarmac at an undisclosed airfield. A black helicopter waited, rotors spinning. Beside her, Maddox with a duffel bag and his own rifle case. You sure about this? He asked. Are you bomb? I'm 65 years old with a bad knee and 40 years of regret. This is either redemption or suicide. Maybe both. They walked toward the helicopter. Cole was already inside along with Travis and 4 others she didn't recognize. Director Cross sat in the cockpit reviewing files on a tablet. She looked up as Kira climbed aboard. Welcome to Project Sentinel. Our first target is in Syria, defense contractor with ties to Andreev's network. We have 3 days to infiltrate, gather evidence, and get out before he disappears. Rules of engagement. Evidence first, violence only if necessary. We're investigators who happen to be excellent shots, not assassins. The helicopter lifted off. Below, the base grew smaller. The mountains stretched out in all directions. Somewhere out there, 7 protocols were still active. 7 conspiracies that would claim more lives if left unchecked. Kira settled into her seat rifle case across her lap. The exhaustion of the past 2 months weighed on her, but beneath it was something else. Purpose. Direction. The knowledge that she was doing what she was meant to do. Cole leaned close. You know this could kill us. Everything could kill us. At least this way we die for something that matters. Ethan would be proud. Ethan would tell me I'm insane. Then he'd volunteer to come along. The helicopter banked east toward the sunrise, toward danger and discovery and justice deferred but not denied. Kira closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. She ran through the mathematics of long-range shooting, wind calculations, elevation adjustments, the endless variables that separated hits from misses, success from failure, life from death. Some people thought shooting was about the rifle, the equipment, the tools. But her father had taught her the truth. Shooting was about will, about refusing to accept that distance made you powerless, about reaching out across impossible ranges to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. That's what snipers did. Not kill, protect. She'd protected Task Unit Orion with 39 shots. She'd protected the truth by surviving when she should have died. Now she'd protect every soldier who trusted their leaders by making sure those leaders were worthy of that trust. 3 days before departure, Kiera returned to the cemetery alone. 3 headstones in a row. Father, brother, Isaiah Cross. She placed her Silver Valor Cross at Ethan's grave. Placed Maddox's old Desert Storm medal at her father's. Placed Cross's recovered dog tag at his. I finished it, she said quietly. For all of you. The wind carried her words across the empty field. She stood there for a long time, feeling the weight lift. Not completely, never completely, but enough. Ethan, you said I'd be too late. I wasn't. Not this time. She touched her father's headstone. Dad, you were right about everything, and I made sure everyone knows. A voice behind her, Maddox standing respectfully back. Your father used to bring you here. When you were 6, after your mother died, he'd talk to her for hours. Kira turned. I didn't know that. He taught you to shoot because he wanted you strong. Wanted you to never be a victim. Maddox stepped forward. He'd be proud, but he'd also tell you the same thing I'm about to say. What's that? Know when the fight's over, know when you've done enough. Kira looked at the 3 graves. Have I? For them, miss. For you, that's your call. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned toward the parking lot where Cole waited by the car. The fight's never over, Master Sergeant, but at least now we're fighting the right enemy. The helicopter flew east. The sun climbed higher. And Captain Kira Brennan, call sign Tempest, daughter of Master Sergeant Patrick Brennan and sister of Corporal Ethan Brennan, opened her eyes and prepared to finish what 3 generations had started. The storm wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time she wasn't alone.